On Saturday, November 2nd, starting at noon, Kevin Williams is helping sick kids by playing video games. He needs your help to raise $1,000 for the CHIO Foundation. Donate at extra-life.org/participants/347875.
Hey guys, I'm Jen. I'm a gamer, a photographer, and a longtime wrestling fan. Wrestling, especially women's wrestling, has truly evolved over time and is bigger than ever. I'm here to give my take on the world of wrestling, be it women, men, or whatever else is on my mind. Because if women in wrestling are being heard more, shouldn't women in wrestling podcasts be too? Welcome to Women Crush Wrestling!
What's up, everybody? It's your boy, Adam. Just Jenny is away this week. She had a pretty big weekend, as did everybody at WrestleMedia who was involved with SummerSlam weekend. And she's a little pooped this week, so she said, hey, can I have the week off? And I was like, yeah, you're my girl, that's cool. There's no real show without Jenny, but I'm going to try and get through this anyway. I'm going to tell you all about what my experiences was like at SummerSlam weekend. I got some stories that I promised y'all over on the Wrestling Show. Plus, I have a tremendous interview. I can't believe that I had this opportunity over the weekend. I got to interview a legend, a trailblazer, and one of my favorite wrestlers of all time, Lufisto. I am so friggin' hyped about this. I can't even begin to tell you how excited I am that I got a chance to chat with her. I fangirled all over her, so please, you're warned right now. This is going to be a lot of me praising Lufisto, and she deserves it. You know, she's got an incredible story. I think that if you don't know who Lufisto is, you need to educate yourself. But seriously, the woman has done just about all there is to do in this business, and definitely doesn't get the recognition that she deserves. You know, we'll let her tell you, her story, but she is literally a woman that has kind of carved a path for women wrestlers today. She is so much more of a part of the women's revolution than people give her credit for. Long before the Four Horsewomen were out putting on great matches in WWE, Lufisto was fighting for equal rights. And when I say fighting for equal rights, I mean literally fighting for equal rights all across Ontario and Quebec and into the United States. She is an absolute legend and one of the all-time greats. And I was honored enough to chat with her during the summit. And we're going to get to that interview in just a little bit. You're going to get to enjoy my euphoria of talking with this living legend and trailblazer. I just can't even. So instead, what I'm going to do is I'm going to tell you a little bit more about WrestleMedia.ca. If you haven't yet gone to visit our website, well, what's wrong with you? First of all, you may be listening to it through that source, through WrestleMedia.ca. That's where we house everything WrestleMedia related, including links to our social media. If you didn't know, well, now you know. We are on Facebook, we're on Twitter, we're on Instagram, all at WrestleMedia.ca, and we also have a YouTube channel. We took so much video footage this past weekend for SummerSlam in Toronto, and we're going to be putting that all together for probably a multi-part road trip. I got a lot of merchandise while I was down there as well from all over, all the different companies, including our guest this week. So I will be doing a very special, maybe multi-part package pile driver coming up in the future as well. And I'm working on a really cool project that I can't say anything about just yet because there's actually multiple parties that I need to talk to in order to get it off the ground. But I will say this, it will definitely be the most ambitious of our video YouTube projects yet. So stay tuned for that, and make sure that you're tuning in to our YouTube channel by subscribing and hitting the notification bell so that you'll know when we get a new episode. We recently hit 50 subscribers on our YouTube, which may not sound like much to some, but it's still a lot for me. The fact that 50 people care enough about our programming to actually subscribe means a lot to me. Thank you to you, 50 subscribers, and thank you for subscribing yourself, because I know you're gonna, right? Because I asked you to, and you're good people, so do that, okay? We also want to go ahead and thank all the great promoters who were with us over the weekend. Guys like Sebastian Suave and Anthony, who helped us out with Union, and of course the Summit. We were there, and it's not the only place we're going to be. We're going to be going on tour into the coming months as well. At the time of this recording, Chinlock Wrestling is just a few days away. If you're listening to this via Patreon, it's tonight. If you're listening to it on Monday, well, you missed the big event. But stay tuned to WrestleMedia.ca/on tour, because that is where you'll be finding out all our upcoming shows, and we do have more in the works. So make sure that you're tuned in for that. And finally, we want to tell you to check out our newsletter. It's free every single week, so go check it out for free. Just hit the newsletter button when you visit WrestleMedia.ca, or you can simply just go to our website for the first time, and a pop-up should appear prompting you to sign up for it. And I suggest you do. It's free. It gives you all the updated news of what's happening in the world of WrestleMedia, maybe even some Patreon previews if you like. All kinds of cool stuff you can get there. So check that out at WrestleMedia.ca. Okay. So before we jump into the interview with Lufisto, I want to talk a little bit about what this interview meant for me as a fan, as a person who's been following women's wrestling. Lufisto was the woman that got me into women's wrestling. I started getting into women's wrestling in a big way probably when I was about 13 years old, because it was at that age that I discovered Lufisto. She appeared on my computer screen one day, bloodied and battered, and I couldn't believe that there was a woman out there doing hardcore death matches the way Lufisto did. She instantly captured my imagination. I won't lie and say that I instantly had a crush on her as well. She's an incredibly beautiful woman, but also the fact that she was so courageous and had the guts to go out there and do something that I know a lot of guys, myself included, just wouldn't have the guts to do. Absolutely incredible. And of course, the more I followed her career, the more I learned about, what she was doing, the barriers she was breaking, the ceilings that she was busting. So to get to talk to Lufisto, who, by the way, is just the sweetest, nicest person, doesn't owe the wrestling business anything for all that she has done for it, and yet still continues to give more and more. I bought her Wounded Owl t-shirt, which, by the way, I love. I think it's a great nickname. Wounded Owl is amazing. We talk about that in the interview. Go support this woman. Go to shows that she's booked on. Buy her merchandise. She has her own Patreon. Go support her Patreon, for goodness sake. She deserves a few ducats in her bucket, so please go and do that. We'll talk about our Patreon a little bit after the interview, but I want you to go support hers because, she deserves it for sure. So I suggest you go and you visit her. She's over at patreon.com/Lufisto. It's pretty simple, right? Yeah, I would think so. So go and check that out. Go support her. She deserves all of your support. She deserves a lot more than that, actually. But you know what? It was a highlight. It was probably the highlight of my day, probably my proudest moment as a fan, getting a chance to interview her and talk to her about her career. So I'm going to enjoy the feedback we're getting from that interview. But before we get to that, I told you about what the highlight of the weekend was. And now I'm going to talk to you about the low light because it also happened at the summit. Now, let me start off by saying that the summit was absolutely unbelievable. If you're a women's wrestling fan, it couldn't get any better than the summit. I had an incredible time. And one of the highlights, aside from meeting Lufisto, was the fact that I was going to get a chance to interact with Bull Nakano, who is an absolute legend in her own right. Here's the problem. I went into fanboy mode when I met Bull Nakano, and she doesn't speak English that I know of, and I certainly don't speak Japanese, but I was trying to say thank you, and all I could do was keep bowing, which is, I don't know if it's disrespectful, but I feel like it was disrespectful because, I didn't want it to come off as being comical or stupid, but here's the problem. I kind of started it like it was like a head nod, but then I went down a little too far, and then my mind started racing. Like, is that too far? Am I going down too fast? Am I bowing too hard? And then I realized, you're bowing. Stop bowing. Oh my God, this is Bull Nakano. You're making an ass out of yourself. Stop bowing. Stop bowing. Stop bowing. And I just felt like all I kept doing was bowing and bowing my head. And I was so embarrassed. It was awful. So here I was, this ridiculous, stupid mark, sitting there, and I couldn't stop bowing to Bull Nakano. I hope she took it as a sign of respect, because even though it kind of turned into just this nervous tick, I really do respect her completely. And on the other side of that coin was my interview with Lufisto. Truly one of my highlights of my life. And I think I've made you wait long enough, so we're going to get to that interview right now. Ladies and gentlemen, the one, the only, the Wounded Owl, Lufisto. I'm honored. You know, I've talked to WWE Hall of Famers. I've talked to some of the biggest names in the business. I'm standing with a bona fide legend. Like, I'm not even joking when I say that this is a personal highlight for me. Lufisto, damn. Man, am I ever glad that you're on Women Crush Wrestling. How are you feeling after that match?
I feel pretty good, actually. I had 3 matches in 2 days, and one was like... yesterday I was not supposed to compete on WXW, and my boyfriend and I were driving here. It's like let's leave early and we'll take our time, go to a hotel and relax and whatever. And on my way, I get a message from WXW. He's like, "Can you make it to the show at 4?" I'm like, "Yes." It's like, "Yes, we need someone in 3-way." I was like, "Okay, change of course, change the GPS." And so I had 3-way with Allison Kay and ML, and yesterday I had one of my favorite matches, I think, with Jordan Grace, and today another 4-way with 3 women's I just love and respect, and cheerleader Melissa, Priscilla Kelly, who I have always wanted to work with, and Allison Kay again. We've been fighting so much. We got great chemistry, and yeah, I feel my knee's been doing so good lately, so I've been running and running. Even Vanessa Craven goes, "Look, hey, you're not retiring. I've never seen you run like this." No, really, I feel fulfilled today, really happy. I had one of the best reactions today coming out. It was so loud. I was like, I had to stop and take a moment to absorb the love. And it's, at Shimmer, I've been like one of the major heels. So I was like, maybe they're going to boo me, but it was like, no, I don't think so. So I came out and it was like, wow, it felt so good.
Let's talk about that for a minute, because there have been times when throughout your career you've talked about feeling like a failure, or that you maybe hadn't reached that level that you wanted to. And yet there's no question, if you're in this building tonight here at the Summit listening to that reaction, the people here, these fans, they worship you. And I'm one of them. So what is that kind of reaction? Does that make you kind of reconsider that kind of stance that you've had, or does it at least soften it a little bit and say, okay, you know what, maybe I was being too hard on myself?
Yeah, I've been really hard on myself because I've worked so hard to achieve a certain level. And when you don't make it, like, it makes... I was in a very bad place last year with the cancer cells and everything, and it was not going well at home. I was not happy in the United States, too. So I literally left everything I had there, came back to my home country of Canada, spent time with my mom, reconnected with my friend who became my boyfriend that I've known for 20 years, and... saw my close friends again, and it put me in the right place, being with the right people that would, my boyfriend is really cool for that. I got one student that I helped, Kat Von Gott, and her boyfriend Rick. I got a bunch of friends. They're like so supportive, and you're like, we love what you do. Keep going. Don't retire. Like my boyfriend and Cap keep saying, you can tag with us. We'll take the hits. You just go in there and kick ass. It's like, so everything's been so. It's been so good mentally that everything else is kind of falling apart. Not falling apart, but together now. Everything is like, when everything was falling apart before, now I think everything is coming together in a nice way where I'm in a good place in my heart and in my soul. And I can appreciate those little moments now where before it was like, I didn't make it there. And when I was younger, I wanted to make it to WWE, but with time, I've kind of noticed that was not the place for me anyway. And so that may help me being at peace, because with the wrestling style I have, very aggressive, and I do all kinds of different types of wrestling, something more like Impact or definitely All Elite would be more something that I would dream of. So, is it something that's going to happen? I'm I'm not thinking about it too much, but if it's something that would happen, I would definitely feel fulfilled. And if not, right now I'm such in a good place where every single matches count. I just enjoy wrestling with my friends. The fact that I came back here in Canada and being with my family, my loved ones, it's just like I fell in love with wrestling again. Like before, it was so much pressure on myself and making it and having the best matches. And this is something that I will always have. When I go out there, I don't go like 50%. I go like 150, and that will never change. But it's just that right now I feel maybe it's more that I'm mature. Also, like I'm almost 40, and I've learned to appreciate every single fan that comes, like, I love your work, buys the shirt, wants a picture, and I'm so happy to meet you. I'm more, grateful for everything.
Hey, this is a commercial for patreon.com/WrestleMedia.ca, where you can get early access to episodes of your favorite WrestleMedia shows, get full uncut and uncensored versions of your favorite shows, and more. Don't want to hear this commercial on your podcast anymore? Sign up at our main event tier and get these episodes ad-free. Want to hear your own commercial here instead of ours? We've got tiers for that too. Visit patreon.com/WrestleMedia.ca and join the WrestleMedia revolution today.
Now, fans come up to you all the time and talk about how they love your work. I mean, I'm gushing over it right now. And I wanted to ask how that differs when you have other wrestlers, performers coming up to you and saying, you inspired me, or you're the reason I'm here, or I'm such a fan of your work. I'd love to get your thoughts on how you feel about that.
It's I don't know what would be the perfect word, but definitely I've worked so hard to get women's wrestling to where it is today. I mean, it's a group effort from all the women's on the independent scene. But, I fought the government so the women here could wrestle the men. And I went to promotions where I was the only woman. I got pretty beat up. And just because I wanted to prove that women could do it too, and we needed to be seen as equal. And that's always been like one of the big fights for me. And now that I see all these girls joining, and there's more and more girls in wrestling schools, like Tyson Dukes has a few, and there's like literally women's wrestlers everywhere right now. There's a lot of shows that it's only women wrestlers, when back then there was me and a bunch of guys. So every time I see someone, because like I'm in there for you because of you, or one of the things that really touched me lately is last time I wrestled Jody Threat. She came to me and she said, thank you, because I wrestle a lot, because there's not many women in Ontario, but I can wrestle the guys because you fought for us, and I'm grateful. So that really touched me.
I mean, it doesn't get much better than that. When you're at a show like this, the Summit, and you see that it's a show with all women, and it's packed, and it's one of the most anticipated events of the whole weekend, I mean, that has to make you proud a little bit. And, at this point, you've wrestled in Shimmer and a lot of other all-women promotions. At this point, is it kind of old hat, or does it still kind of knock you back a little bit and say, wow, this is kind of incredible and crazy?
No, because I think to know where you're going, you have to remember where you came from. And where I came from, there was no girls. People were thinking I was a joke, and when I was trying to prove a point, I was being told, like, you're taking this too seriously, you're just a woman, blah, blah, blah. You don't need, or the one that would always hear, why do you do this? You're a woman, you don't need to do this. When I was doing the hardcore and stuff, I'm like, because I can. I'm a woman that's powerful, and I want to set the example that it's not because of my gender that I cannot go out there and do the same as you guys. It was always been, I've always seen women's wrestlers as like the women in the comics. Like Catwoman can kick Batman's ass and Wonder Woman can kick everybody's ass. So, and that was actually one of the arguments against the Ontario commissions, like why women can't fight guys. But then you have productions from Hollywood coming here filming, and where the women, I think they were filming Catwoman with Halle Berry, and I'm like, how can she kick people's ass? She's doing the training and stuff. I'm doing the training. I train with the guys. And the argument was so strong that they were like, okay. And then they just completely remove wrestling out of the commission because it was like, no, this is entertainment. People are trained to do this. They want to do this. It's consensual. It's like, it's not a man beating a woman. It's literally like like what would you see in a comic book? So, now that I come and I see that there's so many fans and fans that are traveling from, everywhere. There's people from Germany today. There's people from England, all over Quebec, from the United States. And, it's looking back, and then I see this. I was like, yeah, we did something.
Look at that. People coming up to you all the time, always just being like, hey, you're amazing, which is true. You are. Looking back on some of the harder matches that you've done in your life, your death match time, and everything else outside of the business as well. You've always been a big fighter. And I wanted to ask, where do you think that comes from? Like, is it something that's just ingrained from you? Was it environment? Where do you think that comes from?
Definitely environment. I lost my dad at a very young age, and one of my stepdad that I had for a while every day was telling me, you're no good, you won't do anything good. I was playing baseball and football, that's not for women, and it fueled me into proving him wrong so hard that when wrestling came and I got the same response, that's not for girls, you're too small, you're too fat. I was like close to 200 pounds back then. I was like, oh yeah, watch me. I was so pissed off, like, that I was like, no, I'm going to prove you guys that I can be as good and even better. It was like, I was fueling from that negative energy to put it in my wrestling and show the people that women could do it too and better.
You are such a great role model for people in general, but especially women. If you could give a piece of advice to any woman who's listening to this podcast right now, maybe struggling with the same things you've struggled, and you have had some struggles over the years, what's the one piece of advice that you could give to them?
It gets better. It's a very cliche, but time gets better, and sometimes a very hard decision will bring so much good. Like, for me to leave the States and leave my home and leave so many things there, coming back here, I got with my family, I met my boyfriend, I reconnected with friends I haven't seen for years, I got the perfect apartment, my cats are happy, I got a great job besides wrestling, and it's like everything fell like, everything came together. But I had to go like solo and make a very, very hard decision. So sometimes if you're not well and you don't feel well, just listen to yourself, and it's going to be hard. If you need to leave and start new, just do it. Do it. It's going to be tough, but trust me, and I'm the living proof, it's totally worth it in the end.
You have a very special relationship with Jordynne Grace. Your team is just adorable and badass. How did that kind of relationship start? What was it about her that brought you guys together? And what is it that you love about her today?
It all started, we had a match at Beyond Wrestling, and then Beyond put it online on YouTube. And then people were like, oh my God, look at those two girls fighting. They're thick, they're strong. Look at those two pogs. I'm like, what is pog? I didn't know. So I started Googling. I was like, oh, fat ass white girls. I'm like, okay. So that was so funny that Drew Cordero from Beyond was like laughing and whatever. And he's like, oh guys, we have to put you guys together. It works too good. Like, people love you. So we both started teaming up, and I have such good chemistry with Jordynne as a team, but as an opponent. I love that she's so dedicated to everything she does, to her training, to her diet, to her wrestling. She studies the art nonstop. She's very a lover of professional wrestling, and I've seen people like try to put her down when she started. She was really young, but she never quit. She's got that fighter spirit that I love about her. And she's like my little sister. I love her very, very much.
Do you see a little bit of yourself in her?
I do. I like the way she she smiles and everything, and the way she hits really hard, and the time she puts in her craft. Yeah, I see a lot of myself in her.
You're a very creative person outside the ring as well. Talk a little bit about coming up with ideas for your merchandising, your names, your outfits. Like, this is all very cool. Where did your interest in those creative arts kind of begin, and how did they evolve?
It actually started way before wrestling. I've always loved drawing, and I was drawing all kinds of stuff from Ninja Turtles to I love portraits, and I love designing costumes. So even back then, before I was a wrestler, I was playing music in a band. I would like come up with names and logos and stuff, and I studied photography. But then within the photography class, there was a Photoshop class, and that's where I'm like, oh, I like this better. So I switched to multimedia. So I got my college degree in multimedia, and later I got a university certificate in graphic design. So I can do my own merch. I come up with my designs. I do my own DVDs. I create my own gear, and I can't make it, unfortunately, but I do the design, and I do designs for other people too. I love designing gear, and just send it to a great seamstress and get it done.
Tell me about the name Wounded Owl. Where did that come from? What does it mean? What does it represent for you?
Wounded Owl. It's when at first it was the Wounded Owl Ronin, because it was I had Peekaboo. She was my manager, and I was more Japanese oriented when it came to the character because the anime aspect. So when it was time to let her go, just because I needed something new and fresh, the Ronin is someone who lost his master. So I went with that, and I was like, I'd like to represent what could represent me. I'm definitely wounded from the many years of hardcore and tough wrestling and getting beat up, whatever. And the owl is a quiet creature, but if you attack him, very vicious. So I just thought it was perfect. So I just let go the Ronin because it was way too long, and I just like Wounded Owl. It's knowledge. Also, the owl represents knowledge. So 23 years of wrestling, knowledge acquires through pain. Yep.
It's beautiful. It's actually one of my favorite nicknames that I've ever heard in wrestling. What do you think has been your biggest battle in your entire life? Because clearly you could look at it from a straight up match standpoint. You've had some vicious battles. You fought the Ontario Athletic Commission, but you've also beaten cancer. Yeah. I mean, like, there's nothing you can't. You are a little, like, you do realize you're a real superhero. You understand this, right?
I'm trying. With the cancer, I will say I was extremely lucky that when they found the cells, they found them soon enough to have a surgery, remove them, and it was good enough so I didn't have the whole chemo treatment and everything.
Lufisto, what do you think is your legacy, and what do you want it to be?
Intergender wrestling. I want people to know that there was that girl who believed that women could fight the guys, be seen as equal, and I was alone fighting it for a long time, and today it's on TV. It started somewhere, and although it doesn't sound modest at all, I want people to know that it started from here because I really fought so hard for women's right and for us to be seen as equal and athletes, not just women's wrestlers, but wrestlers. That's what people I want them to remember about me. Intergender wrestling comes from here.
There you have it. Couldn't have been more honored to talk to that woman. She's incredible. Like I said, go support her at any upcoming shows. Go follow her on social media and support her on Patreon, patreon.com/Lufisto. And if you're, throwing some ducats around in the bucket, support us on Patreon as well, patreon.com/WrestleMedia.ca. Because coming up after the break, if you are a member of the Patreon, you are going to hear a little bit more about what I did this weekend over at SummerSlam weekend. We're going to talk about the Summit a little bit more with some of my favorite moments and matches. No surprise, one of them does involve Lufisto. And I'm also going to talk about some of the news and notes from this week. I'm going to talk about a few things like a big signing for NXT, one that I think has taken far too long, some legal action from a WWE Hall of Famer's family members. We're talking about the upcoming Shine Championship matches, about the AEW All Out Casino Battle Royale, and a whole lot more. There's actually a ton of news to talk about this week. And we're going to get to it in just a little bit, but only if you're at patreon.com/WrestleMedia.ca and you put a few ducats in the bucket to get you that extra content. See, there's all kinds of tiers with us at patreon.com/WrestleMedia.ca. You can get bonus material. You can get episodes early. You can get merchandise. You can get all kinds of cool stuff. So go check it out. It's a great way to support us financially if you like. If you can't do it financially, if you can't throw a few ducats in the bucket, no problem. There's a great way you can support us, and that's to be our own personal Dave Meltzer and give us 5 stars over on iTunes and give us a great review. We would love that. And even if you can't be bothered to do that, hey, no worries. Just share the podcast. Let people know about it. Word of mouth. That's how these things spread, right? So spread it around like it's some sort of funky bacteria. Let us be the weird diseased podcast that your friends and family members just can't escape from. So that would be a great, great way for you to help us out. Either way, we thank you for listening this week, and we hope to hear from you in the future. Love to hear your feedback on our social medias. Don't forget to check out WrestleMedia.ca. Thank you on behalf of Just Jenny. I think that's going to be it this week, so on behalf of Just Jenny, I'm your boy, Adam, and we just crushed it. Good job.
This has been a presentation of WrestleMedia, where everything is wrestling and wrestling is everything. Here's what you're missing out on right now over at patreon.com/WrestleMedia.ca.
So if you do want to watch the summit and you weren't in Toronto that weekend, you can visit a website and pay a few ducats in the bucket. I think they were charging less than $20 for it, which, trust me, is well worth it. You can go and you can download it at riseascent.com for just $14.99. Less than $20 for what will probably be the best women's event of the year. You hear that, WWE? Ball's in your court. You got the Mae Young Classic and you got Evolution. You're going to have to work really hard to top this one.
Want more? Sign up now at patreon.com/WrestleMedia.ca.